Today on Built to Last, we go to Bronzeville in Chicago, where a historic icon is brought back to life.
When I heard that they were going to restore the Rosenwald, I just had to be a part of it.
That's the one?
And we meet a man with a cross to bear. Put down your remote and pick up a hammer. It's time for Built to Last. Built to Last is brought to you by the Chicago Regional Council of Carpenters Labor and Management Committee and Armstrong Ceilings. Faster, easier, better.
Welcome to Built to Last. I'm Monica Pedersen.
And I'm Mark Nilsson.
In today's episode, we'll meet a carpenter who faced tragedy as a young man, but used his tools and training to support others.
It's been said that Chicago is the pulse of America, and nowhere was this truer than in Bronzeville. But what was once a paradise for middle-class African Americans eventually fell into disrepair.
Our first story explores how the Bronzeville neighborhood is experiencing a resurgence built in its rich history, while forging ahead towards a bright future.
Good afternoon, Bronzeville.
Something is happening in Bronzeville.
This is a big turnout. This is a serious turnout because it reflects something that touches all of us.
Yes, something big is happening in Bronzeville. Look around and you'll see signs of serious reinvestment.
Bronzeville is coming back. They building up stores, they got a Mariano's going up, beautiful homes, respectable people moving in.
You have community, religious leaders, elected officials, contractors, and labor sitting at the table working together, and everybody has a sense of pride for all of the development that's going here.
Right within the vicinity, we see that there's going to be at least $2 or $3 billion of construction work over the next 5 years.
Dirt is moving and hammers are flying.
I talk to a lot of people, eat in the restaurants here, and there is a great sense of pride.
I'm very bullish on Bronzeville. It is a great community, close to the lakefront, to Chicago's downtown, to the Dan Ryan Lakeshore Drive, and it's a beautiful community.
A sleeping giant is awakening.
When you have people like Gwendolyn Brooks, Joe Lewis, Quincy Jones, Nat King Cole, Duke Ellington, Jesse Owens, who all can say and take a part of their history that got here, there was a sense of a community and a love that produced greatness.
It's a community with a rich history, a history that is still being written.
Over the course of about 60 years, or a little under 60 years, maybe 1914 to about 1970, millions of African Americans left the South basically in search of better jobs. They also left the South in search of better lives because of the harshness of Jim Crow racism. The rail lines basically terminate and start here in Chicago, and so that was an easy trip for many Southern blacks to make.
And they settled in a small pocket of land just south of the railroad tracks, initially called the Black Belt, eventually dubbed Bronzeville.
Over the course of about the first couple of decades of the 20th century, this small pocket kind of bloomed from a very small population of African Americans to a population that was ultimately bursting at the seams. People lived together. So if you were making less money, or if you were a doctor, if you were a porter, you all lived together.
And the community did business together too. Excluded from the city's commercial center, Bronzeville's residents developed their own.
A couple of critical businesses that were in Bronzeville were insurance companies. African Americans often could not receive life insurance from dominant culture insurance companies. And a young man who worked at one of those insurance companies, John H. Johnson, went on to start Ebony magazine. There were so many businesses here that were important to African Americans throughout the United States. And one of those businesses was the newspaper, the Chicago Defender, which made its way throughout the United States, or particularly to the South, because of the Pullman porters. And those Pullman porters would bring the newspaper with them. So ultimately, Chicago became kind of a center of Black life because of the media that was ultimately created here in the city. 47th Street is basically the business sector of Bronzeville. 43rd Street is the cultural sector of Bronzeville. So that's where you would have had all of your nightclubs.
As part of the Great Migration, the guys that we know now that are household names like Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, Sonny Boy Williamson, Little Walter, and Willie Dixon, they migrated to Chicago.
So you would have had like the Checkerboard Lounge, which many people are familiar with. Also Teresa's.
And Teresa, you'd find some of the best blues musicians in the city, and there was always a jam session.
And these artists that played at those clubs made their homes in Bronzeville. So folks like Muddy Waters lived down the street from the club that he performed in regularly.
There was hundreds of phenomenal artists that migrated here.
The Southside Community Arts Center, still in existence in the neighborhood, and very much a place where artists, intellectuals, poets, and the like could meet and really share ideas. And again, it becomes another place where the culture of Bronzeville spreads out to the rest of the nation. I think there are myriad reasons why Bronzeville went into disrepair, and one of them is that it wasn't the only place you could live anymore. As the places where African Americans could live opened up, people left. The capital resources left with those people as well. It still has these fantastic bones of a community that ultimately made itself from scratch and took what they were given and made something quite beautiful out of it.
I would drive past it all the time. I'm like, it's so abandoned. It needs to be used for something. So I thought it was an eyesore, but I thought they could use this building instead of tear it down.
At Armstrong Ceiling and Wall Solutions, we take great pride in making a positive difference in the lives of people. With the broadest portfolio in the industry and the technical performance to back it up, you can design and install with confidence. Our ceiling construction expertise, training, and pre-engineered ceiling solutions make it easy for you to seamlessly transition from one end of the building to the other. Improve construction efficiencies and keep every job on time, on budget, and on the mark with Armstrong Ceiling and Wall Solutions. Faster, easier, better.
Keeping restaurants and hotels up to date with the latest design trends is a constant challenge. Finding qualified contractors isn't at finishingchicago.com. We work with top designers and general contractors who use the latest painting, drywall finishing, and wall covering techniques in Chicagoland's premier hotels and restaurants. The hospitality industry relies on finishingchicago.com as its free resource to find quality finishing contractors. For a great finish, start with finishingchicago.com.
Some of Bronzeville's most famous residents once lived in a building that fell into disrepair and sat vacant for 15 years. That's until a group of visionaries restored it to become a centerpiece of the neighborhood.
2016 is a special year in our community and in Chicago. It's the 100th anniversary of the Great Migration, and what more befitting tribute to this time in history than a celebration of the restoration of the iconic and historic Michigan Boulevard apartments.
One, two, three.
The Michigan Boulevard Garden Apartments, also known as the Rosenwald Apartments, were the brainchild of Julius Rosenwald, the president of the Sears Corporation.
And Julius Rosenwald was not just a retail magnate or a man of great wealth. He was also considered a man of great philanthropy. He funded many African-American artists, started schools throughout the South, and really wanted to create a place that middle-class African-Americans could live within the Bronzeville neighborhood.
Movement within Chicago was very limited. We could only live in certain parts of the city, and so this housing was very important to middle-income African-Americans mostly who had migrated.
The Rosenwald opened in 1929, an imposing but beautiful 5-story building comprised of 421 apartments. It was designed by Ernest Grunsfeld Jr., Julius's nephew, the architect responsible for the Adler Planetarium and the Whitehall Hotel.
One of the unique aspects of Rosenwald Court is the building itself. It covers 1 city square block. It has its own interior gardens, as you used to call it back in the day. It adds an unusual aspect where it was a community within a community.
And it really stood in stark contrast to many of the tenements or the kitchenettes that were available to African American residents of the city at the time. And it was a place where famous people like Nat King Cole, Gwendolyn Brooks, Congressman Ralph Metcalf, they called Michigan Boulevard Garden Apartments home. I think one of the most interesting people who lived there was Quincy Jones. He lived in Chicago until he was about 10 years old, but his mother managed the Rosenwald Court Apartments.
But over time, these vibrant buildings fell into disrepair.
I was living down on 49th in Michigan, and I did not like walking past this building at any time. I wouldn't even let my children walk past because it was such a hazard.
In 2000, I believe, the city of Chicago moved all of the people who lived in the Rosenwald out after various systems like the gas system failed. The building sat vacant for almost 15 years.
My dad lives down the street, and I pick my daughter up when they watch her, and I would drive past it all the time. I'm like, it's so abandoned. It needs to be used for something. So I thought it was an eyesore, but I thought they could use this building instead of tear it down.
While the bricks of the Rosenwald apartments were broken and battered, the spirit behind them was very much alive.
The idea to restore Rosenwald Courts was really Alderman Pat Dow. It was a dream of hers to take this gem, this diamond in the rough, and rebuild it for her community.
It took a lot of effort to pull together the resources. There's probably about 14 different financing streams.
When I heard that they were going to restore the Rosenwald, I just had to be a part of it.
In 2015, with the financing finally in place, work began on the Rosenwald apartments. This tall order fell to the George Solid Construction Company.
Did you call him again? I did.
Senior project manager Michael Polachek spearheaded the restoration with his team of carpenters, craftsmen, and specialists.
There were no elevators. So initially, when it was built in the 30s, tenants had to walk all their furniture, groceries, up 5 flights of stairs. So there were 29 staircases. We've infilled a handful of them and now added 5 new elevator shafts. So this one you can see is in progress. It's under construction. So there's 206 apartments in this complex. In the new complex, the 5-story. This is one of 8 staircases that the Historic Parks and Rec wanted us to maintain. And when we got here, these were in such disrepair that we actually couldn't use them. So what the Parks and Recs decided to do was to have us strip these down, take the components out, keep what we could, and incorporate that back into the stairs. So you'll have a mix of stringers and risers and handrails that are old and new on these staircases. So what you'll find in the historic units is the wall layouts are identical to what they were in the 1930s. We've taken the old door frames off, the hinges, the hardware, the doors. We've refurbished them. We've put them back into place. We've prime painted them. So you'll see them here. You've got a nice, tight little cozy kitchen.
I've been at the Rosenwald for a little over 17 months now. And when I first got here, I couldn't believe the place.
There's a lot of history in this building, so why tear it down when you can, restore it and actually give it back to the community?
We started off with some light demo and some patchwork and, some framing and stuff like that. And eventually the windows came in, we installed the windows, and it really looks great from the outside now.
Bronzeville was home to other great luminaries, such as journalist and activist Ida B. Wells, author Richard Wright, and aviator Bessie Coleman.
Restoring a building means a lot more than slapping on a fresh coat of paint. When skilled craftsmen and women restored one iconic building, it helped revitalize an entire community. Julius Rosenwald was no stranger to preservation. When he constructed the complex in the 30s, he built it around the existing 3 flats at the corner of Michigan and 46th Street.
When I saw that they were renovating or restoring this building, I was like, hey, let me check that out. And I saw the layout before they finished, and I was just like pretty much interested. And then my dad actually told me like, no, like that's a famous building.
It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and as a result, we have to restore it to its previous grandeur, or its original grandeur.
This used to be it, like people lived here who are on TV. You know what I'm saying? Music and boxing. And though I'm not big on boxing, I was like, Joe Louis, I've heard that name in my house.
A big part of what we did here was the historical, national historics and state parks. They required us to restore the front facade. So a lot of the bricks and the masonry you see was removed and replaced, or it was cleaned and placed or tuck pointed. So if you look up at the top of the building, just below the parapet, you're gonna see lion's heads. We've taken them down, we've restored them, we've rebuilt some of them, we've primed them, gotten the rust off, and then painted them. This is more of the 3-story facade that we restored. There's 5 or 6 balconies that we restored. So you've got handrails that match the handrails from 80 years ago. Right when you come into the 3 flats where your mailbox will be as a tenant, there's a marble cladding on the sides of the walls, and then there's actual marble stairs. So we've actually taken that marble down, we've cleaned it, and then some of it was replaced. We've also taken and replaced some of the decorative tile in the lobby. You can kind of see this line here where this is the old tile, and this is what we could find to match.
Details matter in the interiors as well.
So as part of the Rosenwald complex, we're inside the 3-story unit. You'll see the trim has actually been taken out, stripped down, and replaced or replicated.
I was impressed. I didn't know what it was gonna look like on the inside. So I did like the crown molding, and this is the original flooring. I don't know, something about it, I like it. I wasn't into floors before, but I like this one, that they kept it.
One of the unique things about the 3-story apartments is these fireplaces. This fireplace was restored in place, original tile. This is the original casting for the fireplace with a little bit of ornamental designs to it. Actually pulled these pieces out and brought them back in. Same with how the bookcases are, same dimensions, same layout.
I don't know, it's kind of like in your mind you think, what did they do? How did they have their furniture? Gwendolyn Brooks, the poet, I mean, like what unit did she stay in? Like that's what I want to know. Like I want to know which one was everyone in, just to feel a little bit more connected to it.
Redevelopment isn't limited to residential. Businesses at street level will turn the Rosenwald apartments into a desirable shopping destination.
The retail space is on 47th Street. We've taken the retail and basically restored it to mirror what it was when it was first erected.
The windows that really brought the Rosenwald back out.
We've got a storefront that we took apart. It's made of wood, it's old French doors, stripped it down, put new windows in.
Every time I go past it, or I bring somebody past the building, I say, I had a part in restoring the building.
And only a few blocks away, a brand new Mariano's supermarket symbolizes Bronzeville's rebirth.
They got the Mariano's. I just see it a new, I don't know, it's like building a new life. It's like a new era going on, and I think the town is feeling it, the community's feeling it.
Being here on the south side of Chicago, seeing how they're bringing things back up. I mean, because the area had declined at one time, so it's nice to see them reinvesting.
It provides a signal to the private sector that money can be made in this community and that there's a desire for people to shop and spend their money and not always have to travel outside of the community.
I'm 13 minutes from all the places I hang out, all the people I have now, my new friends. It's a location, and then like 5 minutes from my dad. I literally drove from my dad's house in the summer like, hey neighbor.
We want to make sure that we integrate the legacy and history of Bronzeville with the future of this community, and to create an area where people want to live, raise their family, attend school, have fun, and Bronzeville is that place.
after Columbine in 1999, I just started getting called all over the country.
Stabila, for over 125 years, has led the industry in measuring and leveling. Still manufactured in Germany since 1865, tradesmen rely on Stabila every day for its precision and durability. We continue to revolutionize the way we build with our lasers, levels, and laser distance measuring tools on commercial and residential job sites around the world. Stabila, how true pros measure.
Meet the new family of Blaze laser measures from Bosch. Go ahead, turn it on and start measuring. It's that simple. The Blaze family offers a wide range of functions to tackle any measuring job. Extend your reach with accuracy up to a 1/16 of an inch. With Bluetooth-enabled devices, easily transfer measurements to your smartphone or tablet with free Bosch apps. Reach farther, work faster, and stay accurate with the Bosch Blaze family of laser measures. Measure on.
Greg Zanis' father wanted him to become a priest, but Greg had a different calling.
Well, ever since I was 5, 6 years old, I was actually making crosses. My dad was a Greek Orthodox priest, and I could sell those to people, you know, and because the little kid made them. And well, when I was 17 years old, my dad went to Greece. I decided before he left that I drew a captain's walk, a room on top of the house, and I built it. This was something I built from scratch that I was very proud of, and I lived in it for the next 7 years.
From then on, Greg knew he was destined to be a builder.
I decided to actually join the Carpenters Union in 1977. I was 4 years behind in my class, and I was in Local 100 out of Geneva that eventually closed, but we went to Carpentersville for carpentry classes. And they had us building, you know, sheds and different things, but their teachers were these old geezers that knew everything.
And one of these old geezers was Ralph Stadler, though everyone called him Bud.
And I don't know, I just hit it off with this old guy because I know he was a World War II vet, but I was trying to learn how to do roofing out of the book. And he says, oh, you know, why don't you come over? Then, you know, I meet his daughter. And I don't know, I just knew this was it, you know, and so I asked her friend, Dolores, you know, and she says, oh, you don't want to date her, she's a prude. I said, well, being a son of a priest, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Greg and his wife were married in 1974, and Bud became his father-in-law.
When I started building houses, he was there for me. Every day he'd come by.
Then one day, tragedy struck.
Bud got murdered on January the 15th, 1996. And that same year, there was a young kid here in Aurora, just a few blocks from here, Nico Contreras, that was murdered. And we were gathering at St. Nick's Church, and Sandy Contreras, Nico's mom, she knew I was a carpenter. She said, would you build a cross for Nico and I'll pay you $20? And I said, no, I wouldn't take the $20, but I'll be back in an hour. One thing led to another. Next thing you know, I'm building them for everybody in my group. A local newspaper did a story on it, and in that story it said that, you know, I'd build a cross for anybody, anywhere, anytime, and deliver it.
What began as a favor to a neighboring family turned into thousands of crosses.
You think that's the one? And then do you want to write your son's name down? I couldn't afford to put up 15,000 crosses, just the lumber. Just say it was, you know, basically $10 a piece, including the paint and the nails. That's $150,000. Most every bit of my lumber is scrap lumber. Somebody's giving me my first lumber donation coming up to build 33 crosses. I'm so excited about getting real lumber, new lumber. Okay, buddy. Thank you. Takes me about 5 or 8 minutes to make one with a chop saw. I've gone through different stages where I'd bolt them together or a nail gun. And it just takes a few minutes. I do make the little ends on them to make them look fancy instead of square cut ends, and a little bit of sanding and 3 coats of paint, and they're out the door. I went to Columbine in 1999, and after Columbine, I just started getting calls all over the country. So quickly, in 2 years, I put up 3,000 crosses. It was shocking. And since then, I get called for everything. I went to some places you probably don't remember, like the Red Lake school shooting in Minnesota. I went to the Giffords in Tucson, Arizona. I went to, of course, Newtown. And if you're from Chicago, you probably remember either the porch collapse or the E2 nightclub or the Federal Building fire. In Milwaukee, I put up grapevine wreaths for the Siak Temple, where people were murdered there. And of course, I put up once in a while a Star of David or a crescent moon. In Chicago, I've been honoring everything that's been going on in France, like Hugo and the Paris attack. I put up hearts for those. And most recently, we had the 84 people killed in Nice. So I put up red hearts in front of the French consulate. Of course, you probably know I would like you to write a message on the cross.
Yeah, we will.
Because we know that eventually these end up in somebody's hands. Made too many crosses. A few years ago, I went to Detroit with intent of, about 19 crosses. While I was there, I made 112 more. Families appreciate what I'm doing. I get thank you letters all the time. I know I'm bragging, but I just got a thank you letter from the governor of Florida. Yeah, I'm gonna take my hug. It brings them a way to remember their son, their father, their daughter, their friend, in a very dignified way. We're gonna miss her more and more as the years go by. I'm doing this a lot for myself. Keeping myself busy gave me a purpose.
Every cross Greg makes honors the man who was not only his father-in-law, but his best friend.
I learned what anybody would want to pass on to their son. I tell people every day, is that you walked through a door today, a carpenter hung that door. Don't forget it, we're proud of who we are.
That's all for this episode of Built to Last.
And remember, always hire a skilled carpenter. They'll nail it.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Visit the Built to Last website to learn about these topics and more.